Good everyone, Organized Video, and today we have a double dose of Scumbag alerts. I haven't done this for a while, so at least that's something we can talk about. And today we have our first contribution being from the legend that is Daytoris. I know that sounds weird because we haven't mentioned that name in an awful long time, but he left the community. I'm not sure why, but I guess I'll find out later because he'll be active in the Discord later. Obviously, I'm recording this before I find out why he left and stuff like that, but I'm sure there's a good reason. Maybe because of all the memes were made about him, but you get the point. And today he was out in his A5M4 and he encountered a scumbag named Isaias something or rather, 743956. And we have another contribution later down the line, that being from Uptown Loki on a player named underscore 805002049600609. Yes, that's a very long name, and I'm not looking forward to typing that in the YouTube title. But luckily, Isaias, I should say, is a very easy one to cover because it's less than a minute long. So, Daytoris was out in his A5M4, that's why it's on the screen here. Not really sure why, I reckon he was Grand Japan. I don't think he's really played Japan. All I'll say is, mate, don't play this, just play the Key 27. And this Isaias individual appears to be a troll account from what I've looked at, and personally speaking, I can sort of understand like that. Obviously, because of War Thunder's popularity is growing by the day, there is going to be more and more scumbags, unfortunately, and that's just the way we've got to deal with it, unfortunately. And it kind of sucks, but we're just gonna have to deal with it. So let's go take a look at Daytoris' contribution, because we haven't seen Daytoris on the channel since, I think, the Brits Air review. That's how long ago it was. Like, damn, that's been about, what, a year? It's actually surprising when you think about it. Now, of course, we're not going to go to Daytoris' perspective, we're going to go to Isaias' perspective. Obviously, 743956. This YouTube title is going to be insane. And of course, he's in a HG51B1. Guys, you give me a talisman on this fucking thing. And straight away, he's already picked his first victim, this HG100. Now notice, he's immediately pitched his elevators down to obviously once he's gotten to above 60 miles per hour, which is what you can do in the H51, and he's already selected his first victim. And he buzzsaws the HG100 out of the sky. Now, initially, it looked like he was going to target Daytoris next, which I haven't flown with Daytoris in a while, but he'd kick your butt. Just saying, kiddo. But instead, he decides to target this Kai-43, and team kills the Kai-43 and gets kicked for team killing, because obviously 2 team kills. Now, I'm not sure what happened after this point. Obviously, 2 players down, or 3 players down if you think about it. Especially 2 good planes like the HE100 and a Kai-43. The H-51 could be afforded to be lost, in my personal opinion. But this isn't exactly a great start. But of course, everyone's just like, what the fuck? And, well, there goes the scumbag. Not exactly a great start to the match, is it? So before we continue, let's take a quick look at this player card, and straight away I knew this was a troll account. Like, you could just tell. I mean, 12 or like 30 matches, just under 30 matches in AB, which you don't need that many to actually go to RB, and then almost 50 in realistic. That pretty much puts a nail on the coffin of Scumbag. And then, of course, if we look, we have 23 deaths in the H51B1, 2 air targets, which I bet you they're bots if I was to place my money on it, 21 deaths, no kills in Fleagles. He clearly knows how to shoot, he just shoots at teammates, which is very sad when you think about it, because this scumbag is still going, and I'm not sure what Gaijin is thinking and what they're actually playing at, because this sort of shit needs to be fixed. Like, come on, it's not hard. IP ban these fuckers, it's really not hard. But that's the end of Dave Torres' contribution. Obviously, I'm not going to show the rest of the replay. I hope it goes well for you, Dave Torres, in this match. Obviously, I'm not going to look. But now we need to go on to part 2, and that is Uptown Loki's contribution. I'll see you all in a moment. And welcome back to the hangar. Now we're coming over to not Dave Torres's, Uptown Loki's contribution to this scumbag alert for today. And today it's on a player named 80_805 blah blah blah. You get the idea now. 00204960609. This smelt like a troll account to me as well, but I can't confirm because obviously it's a higher level account than what the one we've just dealt with. And well, yeah, I just don't know at this point. I might have to do some digging. But he was out in his XP38G. Obviously, I don't have the XP38, so I'm using a regular P38. And I think he was spading it. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, this one was actually quite hard to like dictate because at first I thought Loki had maybe mistaken himself because he sometimes does that. I'm not saying in a bad way, mate, but sometimes he just tends to like get a bit too ahead of himself. He doesn't realize what he's doing, and yeah, it's nothing major, and he is working on that. But I thought he jumped the gun, saying that was not that was my fire and stuff like that, and I had to check the replay anyway because I always do. And I was mistaken, so straight away, apologies for that, Loki, but that's just how I thought at the time. But this incident is going off what's known in the trade as a kill steal, and I will be doing a video on kill stealing at some point and what I consider to be, shall we say, what would be classed as a kill steal, but that will be done later down the line. But of course, in this battle, it happens towards the end, so don't worry, you're not going to see the entire gameplay. I'm going to literally cut to the incident itself, so don't worry about that. But this to me is a pretty open and shut case. It's just someone who thinks that if they damage the enemy plane, no matter how little, it's their kill. That's not how it works. And if it was that way, then that would just be stupid, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, people like this don't tend to think about it, and Loki was almost team killed by this person. Of course, I gave Loki some advice about dealing with this incident as well, because he does make a mistake, which almost gets him killed. But he's learned from that, and now he's going to use that in the future. So, let's get into the replay, and let's take a look, shall we? I'm going to cut to the part where the incident occurs. I'll see you all in a moment. And welcome to the incident. Of course, I've skipped ahead almost to the end because that's just how, like, there's that much that occurs between the actual incident itself. So the incident involves Loki, the Spitfire, obviously with the retarded name, and this Chinese Kai-61. Now, I have to give credit, the Kai-61 had more balls than what I thought he did, because if I was in this situation, in what appears to be a stock or half-spaded Kai-61, I would have just bailed out on the runway, personally speaking. But I suppose he's braver than me, because I wouldn't do that. But hey-ho, that's his choice. Now, of course, this is where it gets a little bit messy, and I pointed out to Loki that I wouldn't have committed to this. I mean, he had a good result, 2 air kills, 3 ground kills, and 1 assist. But I wouldn't have pressed this attack, so to speak. Now, Loki does try to show off here, which almost killed team kills the 202 there, if he'd have not been as accurate with his aiming, so to speak. But this is where it's going to get a bit messy. There's 4 aircraft on this Kai-61 now. There's a lot of tracer fire. There's very close to being team killed here. Now, I don't know how Loki managed to mess that up and not get that kill. Same there. But this is around about the moment where the critical moment is about to happen. So right there, Loki's just scored a crit. Pretty self-explanatory. But from what I can see, it's only wing damage. This is still fair game. But then, if we continue and look in the battle feed, Loki has set this fire. This is the critical point. At this moment in time, everyone else who is currently shooting at this Kai-61 should stop firing. Because let's be real, it's a Japanese aircraft. They don't tend to put out fires unless it's an A675. So, why they're still shooting is the question here. Continuing on, Loki continues to pour on pain until he gets a fire, well another fire I should say, and gets the pilot snipe. But did you notice that? Loki just got hit in the elevator and the right fuel tank. The Spitfire is trying to team kill him. Now, what Loki does here is a bit stupid. He attempts to roll into the Spitfire and attempts to turn into the Spitfire. He doesn't put his nose down and he doesn't extend. I'm not sure what he's trying to do here, but the Spitfire is continuing to pour on pain. He takes damage to the left engine and he's just taken an absolute beating at this point. Luckily, he's managed to hold off the Spitfire for just a little bit of time before the match ends in 3 seconds time. But yeah, like I say, just if you ever got a Spitfire in your butt and he's trying to team kill you and it's a Mark II-B, just put your nose down and he won't catch you. Simple fact. But of course, that doesn't condone this individual's behaviour, because yes, he did get an assist, but he didn't score a crit or the fire. And this is the kind of individual that you might have on your own team. So let's go take a look. Level 24, mains Britain and Germany, which, I mean, mainly Britain, that's brave. Jokes aside, he appears to be mostly a tanker, for the most part. And this kind of makes sense, because tanker trash tend to be greedy, and this individual is no exception. He thinks all kills are his own, and he just appears to be very greedy. But if we look at his plane stats, he's not actually that great, and a lot of his planes are using ground forces. They don't have a lot of ground kills for what they should be, unless it's this one here, the V156, but the rest of them are just not up there. I mean, if you're barely scraping 1-to-1 with arguably one of the best 2.3s, I think that says more about your pilot skill than it does about the person itself, or about the plane itself, I should say. But that's the end of today's Scumbag Alert. Obviously, twin Scumbag Alerts for today. Thank you to Loki and Daytoris for sending them in. I always do appreciate them. If you do want to send me a Scumbag Alert, you can either send them to the email address in the description below, or you can join the Discord server and do that as well. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's video on double Scumbag Alerts. I know people love this series, and I will see you all on the next one.